Good evening, dear friends. Today evening, we are going to affirm from the book Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Kriyananda. And we are going to affirm for courage. Let's read how Swami describes courage. We all might think, at least I thought, that courage? I have courage. Why should I affirm? But the word courage has different meaning, especially when we look at it spiritually. So Swami Kriyananda writes, there are three kinds of human courage: blind, passive, and dynamic. Blind courage doesn't count the cost until it finds itself faced horror-stricken with the bill. Passive courage is the strength of will to adjust to reality, whatever it might be. And dynamic courage is the strength of will not only to accept reality, but to confront it with another reality of one's own making. Now, we would have experienced all these three types of courage within us at various times in our lives, more or less. Some people have a lot of blind courage, doing something which should not be done just to prove a point that they are different. And some people have passive courage. They can adjust to reality, whatever it might be. They are ready to face it. They are ready to have the endurance to face it and pass through that particular phase in their life. There are some people who have dynamic courage, who will not accept defeat, whatever life throws at them, with their own will. They can change the circumstances, and whatever the odds are, they still emerge out to be victorious. But Swami Kriyananda here describes and he speaks about something more than these three types of courage which humans have. He talks about a fourth kind of courage. There is a fourth kind of courage, not human, but divine. Divine courage comes from the living in the awareness of God's presence within, and in the realization that He is the sole reality. Live more in Him, for nothing and no one can touch what you really are. Now, in the book Autobiography of Yogi, both Paramhansa Yogananda and Swami Sri Yukteswar have displayed this courage very clearly. They have given us examples. Now, Paramhansa Yogananda, when he was young, would refuse to accept and agree that our life is controlled by the planets, or to be precise, our life is predetermined. He did not believe in astrology. So occasionally what he did, he went to the astrologers and he requested them to mark certain inauspicious time, and then he would start a venture in that particular inauspicious time. And Paramhansa Yogananda says that it is true, when he started some venture when in an inauspicious time, there were a lot of hurdles. It wasn't easy. But by tuning in to the divinity within him, by remembering the God's presence within, he could overcome any hurdles. And he says that divine will and living in the awareness of God's presence within can overcome any power that an inverted ball can muster. And Swami Sri Yukteswar too, when he was a kid, it displayed courage. His mom once told him a horror story, or she just made him just to make him feel scared. Swami Sri Yukteswar's mother told that there is a ghost behind that door, don't go there. Normally, a kid would be afraid, but Swami Sri Yukteswar, even as a kid, wasn't. He straight away went, opened the door courageously, and looked for the ghost, and it wasn't there. He came back to his mom and asked, "Where was the ghost? I didn't see any ghost." And his mother did not attempt to tell another story to scare him ever. Even as a kid, they displayed courage. But it is not just the courage in a human nature, but the courage of God's divine courage comes from living in the awareness of God. And Paramhansa Yogananda also challenged his brother Ananta that he would go to Agra for a full day and he would come back not to Agra, to Vrindavan, and he would come back the very same day, and God will help him to do that. He had the courage to believe that the God will guide him in each and every venture he takes. You might have read the story Penniless Boys in Vrindavan. If you haven't, you can read it in Autobiography of Yogi. It takes a lot of courage to believe in God and to live with the awareness of His presence within us. And even Jesus Christ too displayed the same courage when he was about to be, when he knew that he would be crucified, but he stepped in front and identified himself when the soldiers were looking for him. He was courageous that anything which happens to him will be as per God's will. Now, how do we develop such a courage, a divine courage? Well, affirmation is one of the way, and we will affirm that we too are blessed with the divine courage, even as the masters were. The affirmation is, I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. So we will affirm in a loud voice to command the attention of our conscious mind, and then in a softer voice so that the meaning of the affirmation is grasped by our mind, and then in a whispering voice so that the meaning of the affirmation is registered in the subconscious mind, and finally mentally only focusing our gaze at the point between the eyebrows and with full concentration silently affirm the same thing so that it registers in our superconscious mind. So please affirm with me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, in a softer voice, I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, in a whispering voice, I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now mentally only uplift your gaze at the point between the eyebrows and with full concentration affirm from your heart, I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. As long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now pray with me. I look to Thee for my strength, Lord. Hold me closely in Thy arms of love. Then, whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. Om.